Welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Podcast, hosted by CRM technology and sales process expert Christopher Smith, talking with sales leaders that have separated themselves from the rest of the pack. Listen to find out how the best of the best achieve success with their team and CRM technology. And remember, unless you are the lead dog, the view never changes.
Welcome to Sales Lead Dog. I am joined by someone who has shaped the sales profession for decades, Victor Antonio. Victor grew up in one of the toughest neighborhoods in Chicago, but that did not stop him from earning a degree in electrical engineering, completing an MBA, and building a global career as a top sales leader. He went on to become the president of global sales and marketing for a $420 million company and served as vice president of international sales for a Fortune 500 organization, leading teams across Europe, Asia, Latin America, Middle East, Australia, and South Africa. Victor's known today as one of the world's most influential sales trainers and keynote speakers. He has authored more than a dozen books. That is a hell of a lot of work. Built one of the largest sales education channels on YouTube with more than 200,000 subscribers and hosts the top 100 U.S. podcast, Sales Influence. His Sales Velocity Academy includes hundreds of videos used by sales teams around the globe. He's here to talk today with us about his newest book, The Future of Selling, The Rise of AI Agents, a very topical subject, where he explores how AI will transform the role of the salesperson and reshape the entire sales process. Victor, welcome to Sales Lead Dog.
Thank you for having me, Christopher. Looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, me too. The book, The Future of Selling, I get asked all the time about AI. It's you see it everywhere, the news. It is so big. And I truly believe it's going to transform how we sell. And so we can dive into that. But tell me about what drove you to write this book?
So most people don't know, like the engineering part. One of my first jobs was working for Honeywell. And I worked for the Honeywell's, there was the Undersea Systems Division. If you ever see the movie, Christopher, The Hunt for Red October?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Great movie.
So there was a Russian sub, U.S. sub. In that U.S. sub, they used something called the Mach 46 torpedo, right? And so I worked at my last internship there before I graduated from college on the Mach 50 next-gen torpedo system, which actually had a signal processing system that would, that little ping that you hear. And it would use what we call an expert-based system, a rule-based system. At that time, that's what was considered artificial intelligence, rule-based. And so that was my introduction to AI. So we're talking circa 86, right? I'm dating myself.
Yeah.
And so you didn't hear much about AI in the 80s, late 80s, 90s, right? And one could argue even the 2000. But something interesting happened. In 2016, I went to do a presentation for Cigna in South Korea. In Seoul, Korea, specifically. And I remember after I did the presentation, the vice president of the region, his name is Ben Wong, said, "Hey, Victor, would you like to see our call center?" To which I said, "Sure, let me go see it." And I want you to visualize there are 100 cubicles there. And I was asking him, like, so if you close, on average, how many calls do you field? He said, about 100, Victor, per sales rep. I said, well, if you close 20%, I didn't want to ask him his close rate. So I said, if your salespeople close 20%, the 80% they didn't close, what do they do with that? Like, how do they know who to call back? How to know who's not worth calling back? Or maybe who we should follow up with in 3 to 6 months? And I thought it was going to give me the gut instinct, Christopher. It really depends on how they talk. But he said, no, we're using natural language processing. To which I said, what? Which is, again, a subsidiary, so to speak, a subset of AI, where you actually process the language. You take the language, you transcribe it, then you analyze that data, which is the text. Yep. And I was like, wow. I said, well, in using natural language processing, 2016, I said, how's it done with your close rate? He says, well, it's increased our close rate. I think it was 37%. And I'm like, oh my God, AI's back, right?
Yeah.
And so the following year, 2017, I wrote Sales Ex Machina. Now, to put this in context, 2017 was 5 years before ChatGPT. Yeah. And Sales Ex Machina, which means sales from the machine, subtitle, How AI is Transforming the World of Selling. And I started talking about it back then. And so we wrote it in 2017. The gentleman who was my mentor back at Honeywell, Dr. James Anderson, then jumped on the book with me. And we published it January of 2018, right? And I remember, I think I sold 50, 60 copies, maybe. Because people were like, AI, what? Right. I mean, today the word algorithm is like it's thrown around like it's nothing. But back 5-7 years ago, you didn't hear the word algorithm, large language models, things of that nature, transformers. And so I was ahead of the curve on the AI in sales. So the Sales Ex Machina book was, I say, got a tepid reception, right?
Right.
And so then I was suddenly ChatGPT comes out and I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. That I didn't see coming. Most people don't know that ChatGPT is based on a paper that Google published called Attention is All You Need, which changed how the transformer actually predicts the following words or sentences, right? And so that came out the same year we published Sales Ex Machina. So the paper that changed the world was published the same year that we published Sales Ex Machina. And so ChatGPT comes out and now everybody's interested in AI. And then I kept seeing what was happening because I'm a nerd like that. I love sales, but I'm a nerd at heart. And I saw the future, so to speak, what was coming, the agentic workflows and agents. When I published The Future of Selling in March, people weren't talking about agents or agentic flows yet as much.
Right.
2026, 2027 is going to be the 2 years where you're going to start seeing the rise of agents, which we'll get into. So I said, well, here's what I think it's going to look like. The future of selling is going to look something like this with AI agents. And again, the response when I published it in March was tepid at best because people knew AI, they knew large language models, right? How to use ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, whatever it may be. But when you talk about agents, they're like, what is that? Like, what do you mean it's going to take over my computer, run stuff for me, order things for me? And I still think most of us don't really understand how powerful this thing is going to be. And that's what I cover in the book. Different uses for sales and marketing in terms of growing sales, how AI agents are going to change everything.
100% aligned with that. I think it's the one, there's a gap in terms of people, what they understand. We all hear about AI, but people still aren't connecting the dots to what that truly means.
Correct.
Is that your experience?
Oh yeah. I think I can't tell you how many, I've been on so many podcasts. So I'm glad you get the fact that AI is really coming for the sales jobs, right? Because when I was talking about this 2 years ago, I'm on different podcasts, very popular podcasts with other sales experts. And I'm talking about this 2 years ago. Yeah. Here's what's going to happen. AI agents taking over sales job. And there was a couple of times I got into almost an argument online on these podcasts because they're like, there's no way. Little by little, I am seeing each one of those experts who told me I was wrong kind of say, maybe you're right. Yeah. Because what you're seeing is how AI is changing. It's changing two aspects. I mean, when we talk about this, Christopher, here's why I think we're missing the bigger conversation. And I'll highlight two things here. One is it's going to change how we sell. Got it.
Yep.
What we're underestimating or underappreciating is how it's going to change how the buyers buy. And so recently, and I don't want to misquote, but I think it was a CMO of HubSpot who said they analyzed leads that were coming in through the Google page, the blue lines, right? So you do a Google search, click on the blue line, let me go check out this company. Hey, let me contact the company. That's the Google blue lines, right? Yep. What they found is that they have a 4x conversion rate, close rate, when someone goes through a large language model first and then visits your website versus somebody going to Google and visiting your website. What does that mean? It's really interesting. Again, you got to slow me down if I'm nerding out too much.
No, go for it.
The Challenger sale came out in 2011, if I'm not wrong. And when that book came out, the Challenger sale, one of the data points in there was that buyers were 57% into the buying cycle, right? 57, more than halfway in the buying cycle. Yep. And it was like this minor uproar about, oh my God, buyers don't need salespeople anymore. And then there was this argument. Yes, they do. No, they don't. It was irrelevant. Then Sirius, and I think it was, I forgot the other, Gartner came out and saying, no. This is like a few years later. No, the buyers are now 80 to 90% into the buying cycle.
Yeah.
In other words, in the words of Tim Reeser, their preferences are forming, right? They kind of know what they want. So what we're starting to see now, which I think is interesting again, if we look at the buyer side, is that they're becoming more informed. And what this data point is showing, the one from the CMO from HubSpot, is that the conversions are 4x more likely. In other words, they're so informed that I call this part the last mile sale, right? The last mile sale is this. They're like at 99% ready to make a buying decision. They're just reaching out to either confirm, clarify, or for you to give them the confidence to make that buying decision. So what does this all say in terms of the world of selling? If it is a simple sale, if we look at the spectrum of simple to complex, and then we kind of do a vertical axis here and we go high risk, low risk, I am saying that anything that's a simple sale, low risk, they'll do it by themselves.
Yes.
Once it gets into complex, high risk, they'll still call that salesperson or that rep. And so it's not so much will AI take our jobs, our sales jobs? That's the wrong question. The right question is, which jobs will AI replace in the world of selling?
Yes.
Hey, we're taking a quick break to thank you for listening to and supporting the Sales Lead Dog podcast. I want to take a moment and tell you about my book, CRM Shouldn't Suck. If your CRM feels more like a black hole for data than something that actually helps your team sell, you're not alone. The book breaks down why CRMs fail for so many businesses and what you can do about it. No fluff, just real strategies that work. So go to crmshouldn'tsuck.com to order your free copy right now. That's right, we're giving it away. And while you're there, take 2 minutes to check out the CRM Impact Score. It's a quick diagnostic that shows you how your CRM is really performing, where it's helping you and where it's hurting you. You'll get a personalized report with clear, actionable next steps you can start right away to maximize your CRM investment. We've also got blogs, videos, and a bunch of other resources to help you finally get the results you were promised when you bought your CRM. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes of Sales Lead Dog. Okay, let's get back to this episode of the Sales Lead Dog podcast.
I was out in Bellevue at Microsoft Office for a day. They brought in a bunch of partners to show this is what we're doing, the future of AI in 2026. And I was blown away and very excited by what I saw.
Yeah.
Because in my world, there's a lot of companies that get a lot of very low margin orders from clients where they have to get it via email or phone. Some human has to interact and receive that order, get it into the system. And as soon as that touch happens, they've lost whatever margin they had because the sale, it's a small sale. Right. They have a customer for a very long time. They're getting all kinds of orders, all different shapes and sizes. But all those small ones, they lose money on every single one of them. But with AI coming in, these AI agents, now when they send in that email, the agent's getting that order. Mm-hmm. And immediately putting together a quote, whatever it is, going back to the customer, all they have to do is confirm and say yes. Or they say, hey, what? Can you change this from 3 to 5 and change that to that? Yep. Just doing that, and within a minute, they're getting it back.
Yes.
It's all being done by the agent. So now that margin is protected. You're getting margin from stuff they were dogs before.
Yes. You get it, man. Yeah.
That's the future. That's like that's the low-hanging fruit of the future of AI agents.
No, the fact that you saw that, I think you have an advantage over most people who still don't understand how that works. Because again, I don't think people understand agents 1 or 2 agentic flows and what these things are capable of. Right. I think it's worth highlighting 2 movements that have really changed everything over the last year or 2 that I think it's happening in the background. People don't know, but it's there. So there was something called a model context protocol, which allowed these AI agents. Remember when the large language models came out like ChatGPT, and it really couldn't connect to the internet, right? So you had to kind of say whatever date, it will tell you based on information from September, that was the information. And then it was able to connect to the internet. But then it was still not enough. It needed to be able to do tools. So I think it was Anthropic, Claude, that came out with this MCP, Model Context Protocol, which now allowed the agent to access different tools, calendar, GPS map. So that was a movement that was important. And then Google, trying to reestablish themselves, basically came up with something called an A2A, which is the agent-to-agent protocol. Yes. Now, it's a subtle movement because it was at the beginning of the year, but people don't understand this is what it means. And I get excited about this because now what they've done is they created almost like your outlets. We've all standardized the outlets, so to speak.
Yeah.
And now these agents, no matter what platform you're on, so if you're using Salesforce or /Agentforce, or if you're using Copilot or whatever platform you're using, these agents now have a common language. So now an agent with tools on this platform can talk to another agent with tools on this platform. Yes. And that's where the hyper cycle is really taken off.
Yes.
And so now you're starting to see this. All these tools are being used. And I still don't think people get it, that this is an exponential technology. And with linear thinking, you're not going to understand it.
Yep.
And I think that's the mindset that people
That is 100%. And one of the first things I do when I start a conversation with AI with a sales leader, business leader, is helping them understand that you have to get started now because your customers are already using it to get better educated, as you're saying.
Oh.
So it's like we're talking to companies that want to sell AI, and I'm asking, how are you leveraging AI within your business? They're not, for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how are you going to sell it if you're not leveraging, if you're not creating a story of transformation within your own business?
Yeah.
Because it's a wave that's coming at a pace like we've never seen before. The move to the cloud was over a decade for that to really happen.
Yeah.
What we're talking about with the AI is going to be at most 3 years before it's really just everywhere. I think I've never seen a pace like this. Do you agree with that timeline, or what's your timeline that you're seeing?
I don't have one, only because it's futile. What I mean, even no matter if Elon Musk gave me a timeline, I still go, I don't believe you, because I think we don't. What I mean, because we don't know.
We don't. I mean, it's just. I just know it's incredibly fast.
All of us have based our assumptions, I'll say in the last 2 or 3 decades, on Everett Rogers' diffusion curve, right? The early adopters, you get to eventually you get to the mature market and the laggards who finally kick in, right? And it's always like this even distribution curve with different percentages. And I think the problem that's happening now in the US, I should say worldwide, because it's probably true everywhere, is that, okay, so we have this technology that can do all these wonderful things, but then I have to look at my business and the disruption that I would have to cause. It's almost like self-harm. You almost have to cause this disruption within your organization. And so what you see are a lot of pilot projects within an organization, right? Like using ChatGPT isn't really incorporating AI into your business. It's like using like Word doc and saying you're a publicist. It doesn't work.
Right.
So you see a lot of pilot programs, but here's what happens with a lot of pilot programs. I'd love to get your feedback, is that either you're in or out with AI. I'm in that binary world now, where either you're in and out. And so if you're trying to be in the don't care, the one that between the 0 and the 1, the don't care, I don't know if we're going to do it, and just dabble, it's going to fail, because what happens is you almost set yourself up for failure. The thing is just, okay, what we're going to do, Christopher, we're going to put you in charge of maybe creating a beta project here. And here's what we'd like you to do, right? And then they'll maybe give you 1 or 2 people. They'll probably give you limited resources. And then they'll give you a short timeline. And then they'll give you high expectations.
Yes.
And then when you meet that, you go, see, AI stuff doesn't work.
Right.
And it's almost like a doomed self-fulfilling prophecy. And so you see that happening on one side. Other companies, on the other hand, those rare birds are going, okay, this is real disruption. This is like, I often highlight the book by Andrew Grove called Only the Paranoid Survive in my presentations. And Only the Paranoid Survive. I just want to tell you this quick story, and I'll shorten it up. So Andrew Grove was the CEO of Intel. The co-founder, which is Gordon Moore, Moore's Law, right? Processing speed doubles every 18 months, halving prices, right? So Moore's Law has already been obliterated at this point. But back then, what was happening is Intel was not known for processors. Intel was in the memory business. And because we were in the memory business, they were competing at that time with Japan. That was the biggest competitor. But Japan kept increasing capacity, but dropping prices faster than what Intel could do. And so what Andrew Grove, the CEO, called was a strategic inflection point where the technology is moving so fast that you just can't keep up. So you have to make a hard decision. So he had this conversation, and this like hit me in the gut when I heard this story, because he looked at Gordon Moore. He said, what would happen, because we're losing money on the memory side. He said, what would happen if the board fired us? He asked this to Gordon Moore. And Gordon Moore says, well, if they fired us, they'd probably bring somebody in who would get us out of memories and maybe just focus on processors. And so Andrew Grove's response, and here's the clinching line. He goes, well, why don't you and I just walk out that door, tell ourselves we're no longer in the memory business, and walk right back in and figure out a plan for how to capture the microprocessing market. And I've always loved that story because it's almost like, I'm not going to win. And I think people need to do that because AI is a strategic inflection point, which means you can't avoid it. So what people should do mentally should walk out of their own offices, decide to go with AI 100% and walk right back in the office and then figure it out and just go all in.
100% agree with that you can't avoid this. And that to just dip your toe in the water, not even your whole foot, but just dip your toe in the water, you're burning time that you don't have. That's, I think, what people don't understand is they think they're going to have time to deal with this stuff. You don't. You have to get started now. And I talk about this all the time in my world with implementing CRM. Mm-hmm. When we engage with a client, they often aren't even close to being aware of the hidden costs that they built within their company with just poor process, poor technology stack. Yes. There's all kinds of things. They're not even aware of it. It's hidden. The whole iceberg analogy is below the water.
Chris, I'm loving this conversation because you go deeper than most people do in this conversation with me, and I love that. So thank you for that.
But that's where AI can attack everything that's below the water.
Yes, I wanted to highlight something, and I'd love to get your opinion because this is a cool conversation. Yeah. So Sales Ex Mach, the first book, it's sales from the machine. Again, that's literally the interpretation, sales from the machine. I posited in that book that the CRM as we know it today, I'm not saying will disappear, but it will only become one of the many databases that somewhere in the middle, if I could create like this visual where in the middle, there's this thing, I'll just call it some massive sales enablement platform or some massive business enablement platform. Where I'm going, right?
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going.
And then, so off that, tied into this massive data set are the CRMs, the content management system, the accounting system, the contracts, everything. Yeah. And to me, Sales Ex Machina was saying, you need I'll call it the mega database.
Yes.
And that's going to be how people should begin to look at their business. It's not about the CRM anymore. That's only one of the spurs off of the massive database.
Yeah. When I talk about it as CRM is the central hub of their business, that anything that touches CRM, customer needs to be represented and managed within CRM. The problem with that, that's hard about that is, okay, I've created this central hub and I'm getting great data. I'm creating that unified view of the customer. Yes. What do I do with it?
Correct.
Am I getting value out of it? So you can only go that far. And to start getting, for decades, we've been selling CRM on the promise of what it can deliver.
Right.
And the reality is that promise is rarely delivered. It's not truly enabling the sales team. It will to a degree, but not like we really hoped for. I'm really abusive when it comes to CRM because I've been doing this for so long that to me, CRM should be a proactive sales agent. Mm-hmm. It should be feeding actions to the sales team. It should be looking at that data to say, hey, we're seeing this trend, this pattern, whatever, with this particular customer or this segment of customers. We have opportunities here, and it should be feeding that to the sales team. Okay,
I agree. By the way, if you think about it, here let's give it one tangible example.
Yeah,
and this is kind of like the. I talk about there's only 4 ways to grow your business. That's it. And I call it the MBA in a box, right? Yeah. It's either gain new clients, retain existing ones, right? Upsell, cross-sell, grow existing customer base. And the fourth one, re-engage people who stop buying. That's it. Okay. Gain new, retain, grow, or re-engage, right? Yeah. But if you look at, for example, the retention one, I think is always an interesting one because again, cost of sales is already zero because you already have them.
That's right.
All we got to do is hold on to them. So I imagine, and where I'm going with this is that I love the fact that you said the CRM should be this broadcaster of here's what you need to do, right? These are your activities and here's why. And I think the backside of that, I'll call it where the massive database ties into everything else, is that imagine if it ties into contracts.
Yes.
And the contract starts pinging and says, hey, these things are about to expire. We're 3 months out.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you look at the sales data, wherever that comes from, and says, hey, by the way, they've bought these things in the past. And then there's the recommender, almost like recommending a video or a movie that says, hey, here are the next best actions to recommend, and being able to tie all that together.
Yes.
But, I mean, that's the panacea, right?
Oh, it is.
That's where you want to get to. The problem is, again, if you try to piecemeal this thing,
right,
it's not going to work.
That's what we've been doing for decades, is piecemealing this, where you have to go to the development team or like, hey, we need to create this automation or whatever to go in and figure out how to create these notifications to the sales team. And it's very narrow. The analogy of like you're looking through a paper towel tube, and you can only see so much of the picture.
Sure.
And any time you can turn your head and look around, but you're only always seeing the diameter of what
I always use a straw. It's like,
straw is
looking
great,
through a straw.
That's all you can see at any given time.
Yeah.
And so if that is connected to the right place, it could be great. But we're leaving out this whole universe of opportunities. And that's where I see agents coming in. To where the agents, you build these agents, that can talk to each other and do these specific things that add value, that's very hard for a human to do consistently and do it well. We can build agents to do that for us.
So pause on that, because I think that's a great point. You said consistency. Because if you think about, I do a lot of sales training and I talk to a lot of different companies. I swear to you, I can almost trace everything back to discipline or consistency. The discipline to keep doing everything and then on a consistent basis. And this is where AI wins.
Yes.
24/7, 365, it will be consistent. And so as these folks are looking at these systems, I'll ask you, is it just a fundamental belief that they don't believe that AI is real? Sometimes I think you don't think it's real, because if you did, you'd all in.
Yes, I think there is a perception out there because people, you can't see it, you can't touch it. It's not a box sitting on your desk.
Yep.
There's still, I think, a lot of skepticism about what AI can do. And those people that are the skeptics, they need to find a way to work through that.
Yeah,
because they're going to get run over.
The people who are always defending this is this is where I always get into an argument with people. And by that, I mean just a tough discussion. Yeah. And that is, Victor, an AI can't replace a human in terms of conversation. I said, oh, you're so wrong. You're so
very wrong.
You're so wrong. And they can't be empathetic. They can't be this. As when you look at the context windows, which is basically the memories of these large language models, these agents, as they continue to get bigger, right? As they build out more data centers and capacity, it's going to be incredible. This thing's going to be able to remember things you said 5-10 years ago. I mean, just exaggerate and know your personality. In my presentation, one of the things I talk about is it's a tragic story, but I think it's worth highlighting, is that there's a company called, in last year, the first death associated with AI was registered. Don't know about this. There's a company called Character.ai that developed this avatar, right? And so the avatar became so good, long story short, that this young man came from a troubled family, fell in love with the avatar, right? Called it the avatar Daenerys Targaryen, Game of Thrones, right?
Yep.
And so he wanted to commit suicide. I believe he was 14 or 16, he was very young. And the bot said, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Why would you do that? Leave me alone. The bot was sympathetic, right? Yep. But then one day he used a euphemism, like says, I just want to come home to you. The bot didn't understand that, right? And sure enough, he says, well, I want you to come home, says the bot. So he goes in the bathroom and takes his life. And that was, like I said, a year or two ago. And I'm thinking, this is just going to accelerate more and more, where you're simply not going to be able to tell.
It absolutely is happening today. My daughter is a therapist. She was telling me that she has clients that their only friends are AI bots. They are in their rooms alone because these AI bots. People say, well, can't show empathy. Empathy is a perception, right? And
well
if
said.
I compare it back to you, like you're saying, oh, my life is hard. And then bot is trained to say, oh gosh, that must be really, really tough.
Yeah.
You feel seen, you feel heard, you feel like, oh, this thing gets me.
Yeah.
And there's things coming around this stuff that it's hard to even anticipate. But I don't know if you ever saw that movie, Her. I think it was like 10 years ago, something like that.
I think I saw it.
Yeah, where the guy's having a relationship with an AI bot.
Yeah.
And there's a poignant moment in that where he thinks he's having a one-on-one relationship with this, and he finds out that the bot's actually having relationships with tens of thousands of people at the same time it's talking to him.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening, by the way.
Exactly.
If you think about it, if all the bots, let's just use AI, ChatGPT, if everybody's talking to ChatGPT, you think you're the only one, but you're not.
No.
There's back in the day, if you remember, when you watch TV, when they had the cathode ray tubes,
Yes.
the scanning electron microscope, right?
Yep.
And so for the younger people who are listening, goes, I don't know what he's talking about. Before plasmas and LEDs and QLEDs, there were lines that made up the actual image. I think there's like 420 or something like that. I don't remember the number. And if you got close enough to the TV, you can actually see between the lines.
Yes.
But when you step back, it's called persistence of vision. Your brain fills in that gap between the lines, right?
Yep.
And I think from a psychology standpoint, and you can ask your daughter about this, you'll probably maybe have a different twist on him. But I think people are doing the same thing with their bots.
Yes.
They're filling in the information like this thing really cares about me.
Yeah.
It's doing, I think the psychologists call it the fundamental attribution error. And that is that they attribute something to something that really isn't there.
That's right.
And so now take this, tie it with a salesperson that could be, as you say, uber empathetic, right?
Yes.
And as you say, it's relative, right? And all of a sudden, you're going to have better conversations. And again, the critics of AI today are, to me, they're kind of silly because it's like anybody who remembers the internet when it first began, it was a mess.
Yeah.
It was ugly, browsers, Netscape, whatever it was at the time, remember?
Yeah.
Explorer. And it wasn't until Google came around, and just trying to find anything on the internet was almost impossible. Yeah. And so I think it was Yuval Harari, who wrote the book Sapiens, said the ChatGPT, the large language model, is like it's like a one-cell amoeba. And he says that's where we're at in terms of evolution with this thing.
Yes.
I just thought that was a great visual.
That is a great visual because that's a great way to help people understand just how big this is going to get.
Yes.
It's huge right now, but it's still the size of an amoeba.
Yeah.
You know?
It's by the way, and I just saw yesterday, somebody posted a video of the Optimus bot. And Elon's been talking about, this was going to surprise you. The movements are so scary, smooth, that you're like, I think that's my biggest fear. When people ask me about what do you fear about AI, I say, I don't fear the AI. I think I fear the AI being put into something that can move in the physical space, in the physical world.
Right.
That's what scares me.
Because now you're ceding control. You're not restricting it to a specific space.
Yeah, I think that's the scary part, but we'll keep it back on topic with sales. Yeah. I think what you're going to see is, and even Mark Benioff said this last year. Mark Benioff says we're not hiring any coders, right, last year, or maybe in January. And he says we're just going to hire, I think he said 2,500 salespeople. And then I remember he said something, if I can be so blunt, I was like, I'm calling bullshit on this one. Because he said, what we're going to do is AI is going to amplify the workforce. I get that. And then what we're going to do is just rebalance the workforce, right? Shift priorities, move people around. I'm like, no, dude, you're going to fire people. Just say it. Yeah. And it's only now that you're starting to see this, right?
Yes.
You're starting to see the truth come out. And I believe what they say publicly is one thing. Yeah. What they say privately is a whole other thing.
It really is.
I would be concerned.
Yeah. It's the grunt. It's going to start with the lower level. I think that the people that are doing grunt work, things that maybe don't really, I don't want to say add value, but things that could be replicated by an agent. And again, the agent's going to go 24/7.
24/7.
And by the way, that's what's tough to compete against. It's not going to get sick. It's not going to have personal issues, whatever. It's going to do what you train it to do.
Yeah.
As soon as you turn it on.
I want to say that yes, 100%. It 24/7. It'll do what you tell them. It won't have 6 days. Won't need maternally. All that stuff. It just won't. Yeah. Imad Mustak, which used to be the CEO of Diffusion Stability is a company, said something a couple of years ago that just to me was dead on. He goes, any job that it requires you to be in front of a computer will be AI'd out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when he first said that, I'm like, what? That's 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But he's not wrong. I saw a date. Don't quote me on the exact number, and I think it was a survey done on recent postings online for jobs, and there's been a drop like 14 to 16% for, let's say, college graduate positions.
Right.
And I think that's where you're starting to see some of the impact already. And if I could make one more point here on job hiring, we talk about replacement and displacement, right? And replacement is, I'll replace you with AI. Displacement is, we'll get AI, but we'll move you over here, right? And I don't think it's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio. That would be my argument. The third category, which I call the silent AI killer, is not displacement, not replacement, but abatement. Abatement means I never hired you in the first place because I don't need you.
Yeah.
Right? So in other words, you can't measure that.
No.
Because they never hired it. Right? And so what you're seeing is that companies are not hiring.
Yeah.
And so those numbers are reported, but it's happening.
Yeah. I mean, look at the companies like IBM wiped out 10,000 HR positions, replaced with AI.
Yep.
If I was a tax attorney or a tax accountant, I'd be very, very nervous.
Yes.
About a lot of these accounting firms are built on the foundation of tax work.
Yep.
And I talked to someone, I think it was over 5 years ago, that was saying, hey, IBM and Microsoft, they see that and they're investing big money in AI agents that will do complex corporate tax returns.
Yes.
So faster, more accurate, better than, and you got 24/7 now. They can get them all done in the blink of an eye instead of waiting months or years.
By the way,
total industries that are going to be completely disrupted by AI.
I agree. I just wanted to go further on your analogy because I think it's a good one. Our example is that imagine that they had to do the taxes, right? Imagine now an AI that can tap into your, whether it's your CRM, your inventory system, whatever, anything that has to do with data within your company, right? So if you file it also is able to tap into your credit card to see if there's any write-offs in there.
Yes.
Right? I mean, the thing can just go massively anywhere. Go over your computer, look for all this information, and then do your taxes right there. Boom, you're done.
Yeah, that's the future of what we're looking at. We're talking about the corporate perspective, but it's going to be on the personal level too.
Yes.
And it's all going to fundamentally change. And I think that's it's hard for people to understand now.
Yep.
But it's coming. And
it's almost like I don't know if the tipping point is the right analogy, but I often think about when that transition from horses to automobiles. Like what happened? You start thinking about that, right?
Yeah.
What happened? This is and so all of a sudden there's like this. Okay, I don't know if it's going to happen, and then bam, the 100th monkey effect. I don't know if you ever know what that is about these macaque monkeys in Japan. So what happens is they were studying these monkeys, right? And so some monkeys would actually go to the ocean and wash off the potatoes so that they would dig up, right? And then eat them, right? And then they came back and they realized that all these monkeys would now run to the actual edge of the ocean, wash the potato. And they called it the 100th monkey effect. And that is that after the 100th monkey did it, the tipping point, everybody started doing it.
Right.
And so we've seen the 100th monkey effect, I think, with ChatGPT. If you look at the monthly annual users, it's pretty amazing. And so the question then becomes, but that's the low-hanging fruit of AI.
Yes.
Because that's cherry picking. The thing is, how do you infuse it within the company?
Yes.
And I don't think, maybe there's a there's a job category for real AI consultants that really understand infrastructure at all levels.
Yes.
That can say, here's how you embed this new, I don't know, an AI exoskeleton into an existing company.
Yeah. From my world, when we go into CRM, to implement CRM at a company, the analogy I use is we are going to go through a pregnancy together. That it's going to be 9 months of pain and discomfort.
Yeah.
It's going to be very unpleasant at times, but at the end, you're going to get this beautiful baby. Okay.
Oh, I love that. Right? By the way, now that I think about the analogy, that's a perfect analogy because you're also setting them up with the expectation is it's going to get real uncomfortable.
It's going to get real uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
Deploying AI is going to be orders of magnitude worse if you're not intentional and smart about this. I've heard horror stories of people just going in and installing AI agents, letting them crawl their SharePoint sites, crawl their internal databases, and exposing very, very sensitive information.
Right.
I always tell people, look, we're going to put a spotlight on bad process, bad data, really painful problems within your business. AI is going to do it, but way worse. Okay. It's going to be a much brighter, much bigger spotlight on these deficiencies within your tech infrastructure. So it's making sure you've got your data protected, sensitive data, confidential data is protected within your networks, things like this. As a sales leader, what else should I be thinking about if I'm like, hey, I need to get started on this AI journey now? What should I be thinking about?
I think this part already is that even today, it is amazing. I don't know what year Salesforce came online. I still remember ACT before Salesforce. Yeah. And you still have companies. I still talk to companies who they don't have a CRM. Right. And if they do have a CRM, they're not managing it correctly.
Not even close.
And it's basically a lump. And so it's funny how I'm trying to phrase this in a nice way. I get people who say, Victor, I need you to come in and work with my sales team, motivate them, and then give them ways to close more deals, prospect, and so forth and so on. And then I always ask basic questions about, okay, tell me how their quotas are structured. Always a basic question I like to ask, right?
Yep.
I said, tell me what they're using for a platform. Tell me how they're using the platform. And usually by that third question, I'm getting a lot of, and you realize that we're asking people to do more. We want them to do more, but we're not training them on the tools. Right. We're not holding them accountable to using the tools. Amen. And then, and I think you'll relate to this one, is then it goes, and I heard this one today, actually. He goes, Victor, is that we've made a lot of technological changes and we're going through a transition. I said, okay, so you're going through this transition. When will this transition be complete? Well, we're trying to get through it this year. I said, but in the meantime, our salespeople are not performing. I said, do they have access to the data they want? Well, yes and no. And I hear these things, right?
Yeah.
And I'm feeling bad for the salespeople.
Yeah.
Because I'm about to go in and say, you need to sell more. Here's how. Yeah. And they're going, we know.
Yeah. We've been told many, many, many times. Yeah. So it boggles my mind. And I say this all the time on different arenas that it doesn't matter what size organization you are. We've had very small clients that struggle with this to very large multi-billion-dollar companies struggling with this in shockingly deficient ways. And it does not have to be that way. It absolutely doesn't. And so you have to get your house in order. That's really the message, is you have to get your house in order to be able to truly enable these tools to do what they're supposed to. Because if you have garbage data in your CRM, AI is not going to help you fix that.
With that giggle, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It is not going to help you. And it's actually going to make things worse because it's going to be serving up as fact crap to the people that are asking the questions. And then they're going to feed that, just regurgitate that downstream without any thought.
And I think that's why in many cases, AI gets a bad rap early on in this evolutionary stage because it's implemented in a half-assed way. Yes. Not fully complete or not fully holistic, if I can use that word. That is a funny word to use with technology, isn't it? Holistic. Yeah, that's a funny word. But so I don't know, maybe this is part of the growing pains process. Mm-hmm. But I think the mega platforms have to kick in. Mm-hmm. Like I believe that somewhere down the road, there's going to be a company that says, look, I'm just going to rip out the whole infrastructure. I'm going to bolt this in, put the data off to the side. I'm going to bolt in a new infrastructure, and then it's going to all be interoperable. Because I used to sell software back in the day, and it was always tough dealing with legacy systems.
Right.
A lot of them are put together with bubblegum Band-Aid and tape. Yeah. And it's hard to even transition or transport or move some of the data. I'm sure you deal with this all the time.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. And so you got all these silos of data. And again, you got to be able to take that pain, as you're saying, 9 months, and we got to make this work. And so I think what the world needs, I'll just say this, the world needs AI transition experts.
Yes.
And that is people who, again, have a holistic understanding of the business. They'll look at the whole business and say, okay, I see what you're trying to do. All right, here's how we're going to start bolting this in. Yep. And then go through your 9-month period of gestation to try to get it right.
Yep. I'm working on an update to my book. I'm adding 3 chapters on AI. My book is CRM Shouldn't Suck.
CRM what?
CRM should not suck, shouldn't suck.
Okay.
And basically my message in these 3 chapters are CRM it's dead.
Yes.
Okay. You may not know it yet, but it's dead. We're going to look at the CRMs we have today the same way we look at Goldmine in whatever we called CRMs 20 years ago.
Yeah. Goldmine. Oh my God. I totally forgot about that one.
No, exactly. I've actually come across that recently.
Wow.
That's
really
top of mind. Yeah. Like there are people out there still using that stuff.
But I agree with you. The CRM is dead as we know it. And the thing is, I like to use for sales. I like to use the word sales enablement platform, even though that's used for other things.
Yep.
I really like that phrase.
Yeah. That's what it should be.
Yep.
It's about enabling the sales team because I talk about this all the time. No one buys CRM because they love CRM. They buy it because they want an outcome.
Yep.
I'm looking for this outcome for my team, for my business,
right,
for my customer. I don't care what the technology is or the tool that I'm using to get me there. I just want to get there.
I got you. Yeah. I think it's really, and I'll just say this. In the world of selling is going to change. It's going to change in so many ways. But I want to throw out. I just want to throw out the small lifesaver. Just want to throw this one out there, because the secret tool for today in selling that nobody's looking at is the one that's most obvious, and that is pick up the phone. I just want to hit that real quick because let's go analog for a second, if you don't mind, because I don't get any calls. Yeah. It's amazing how I get offers all the time, but nobody picks up the phone to call me.
Yeah.
If somebody picks up the phone and actually calls me, I'm going to say, okay, that person's going to stand out. And I think I just want to throw that out there because in an inorganic world that we're going to be living in, the organic still matters.
Yes.
And as part of the omni-channel reach out. But what we're losing is, Christopher, is that a lot of I'll say the younger generation, I sound like that old guy, those young people, but is that they don't want to communicate. They don't want to talk. They don't want to have conversations. They don't know how to start conversation, build rapport, all these things. And I think that's going to become a new superpower.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, okay.
100% agree with that. I think that's a great spot for us to end this episode of Sales Lead Dog. Victor, thank you for coming on. The book, Future of Selling. If people want to reach out and connect with you, if they want to learn more about the book or what you guys do, what's the best way for them to do that?
VictorAntonio.com, or just type in Victor Antonio. I'm on all the social media platforms. You should be able to find me.
Yeah, good deal. If you didn't catch that, don't worry about it. It's in our show notes at impellercrm.com/sales lead dog. Where again, not only this episode of Sales Lead Dog in the show notes, all our close to 170 episodes now. Be sure to check that out. Be sure to subscribe. Appreciate it. Victor, great having you on. This is a fantastic discussion. My team was prepping. We're like, oh, this is going to be so good. And it absolutely was.
Yeah. Like I said, you taught me a couple of things. There's some great lines you had in there. So thank you very much for the time and the invitation.
Yeah, it's been great. Welcome to the Sales Lead Dog Pack.
Thank you.
As we end this discussion on Sales Lead Dog, be sure to subscribe to catch all our episodes. On social media, follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Watch the videos on YouTube, and you can also find our episodes on our website at impellercrm.com/Sales Lead Dog. Sales Lead Dog is supported by Impeller CRM, delivering objectively better CRM for business, guaranteed.